Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. This is likely to be the last one of the day, unless there's a major breaking news story. And I thought if we're going to finish, we'll finish nice. It's a nice day out there. I'm going to go outside and have a couple of beers in a minute, sort of enjoy the evening. And I thought I'll leave on a nice note. And Patrick Harvie is always a nice one to leave because he's so much value for money. He always gets it wrong, and he's got it wrong again. We're going to have a look here at the big rent rises in Scotland, caused by, of course, rent control, which fails whenever it is in place. If you couple that with the fact that the SNP have been really hammering landlords, there's a massive shortage of rental accommodation. It's crisis levels, in fact. And so whenever a rental property comes on the market, the landlord can up the price by as much as he likes, knowing that, of course, once the tenant goes in, there's only a 3% increase per year because of these rent controls. So they take the opportunity to really hike the price. And it is hurting tenants. Nobody can afford it. Yes, they can, because the market can bear it. Because there's so few properties, there's always people available that will have the money. But for your average punter, it's becoming unaffordable. So we'll take a look at this and see how badly Patrick Harvie has, to put it bluntly, screwed up yet again. Here goes. So Patrick Harvie blamed as rent prices rise by double digits for the third quarter in a row in Scotland. Scottish Greens and the SNP were urged not, of course, to push ahead with their controversial rent freeze again, but they did not listen, and this led to rental costs increasing in most major cities, including Edinburgh, Glasgow and Aberdeen. And indeed, through the fringe, people were complaining that there wasn't enough properties and the ones they could get were expensive. Well, that's what happens when you drive landlords out of the market. So Patrick Harvie's controversial rent freeze, which bans landlords from increasing rent during a tenancy more than 3%, I think they're allowed a 3% rise or some such, has been blamed for a huge increase in rental costs across Scotland. New analysis has revealed the average rents have risen by double digits for the third quarter in a row. So they went up by at least 10% in quarter one, by 10% again in quarter two, and by 10% in quarter three. And it's probably more than 10%, but we'll have a look at the numbers in a minute. The Scottish Greens Minister fronted a temporary legislation last year, which was brought in to lessen the impact of COVID and the cost of living crisis. It banned property owners from increasing rent for 6 months from last October, with an eviction ban also put in place. This was then extended for another 6 months in January. So if you're a landlord up there, someone can literally move in day one, pay the deposit, in they go, and then never pay you again, and they can live there for a year rent free, and you're liable for all costs. And if you don't fix the place because of issues, he can sue you. Why would anyone want to be a landlord in cases like that? And it's no wonder so many are getting out of the game, and it's no wonder rents are rising so terribly fast. It's been revealed that the price gap between all those already in rented accommodation and those seeking a new home has grown substantially. Almost all major regions, including Edinburgh, Glasgow and Dundee, reported double-digit increases in rents in the second quarter of 2023, with the market moving at a frenetic pace across all regions and property types. Overall, there was an 11.4% hike across all of Scotland, with 14.4% in Glasgow and 15.1% in Edinburgh. Now, that is a lot of increase, and it's not surprising. And this is as a function of rent control, and wherever it's seen, and it's seen all over the world whenever they put it in. In fact, in Ireland, they tried it in the Southern Ireland, Republic of Ireland, and it was particularly in the Dublin region, sort of down in the southeast there, and they brought in all these rent controls. And it lasted a year, and then they abandoned it because it was so terrible for the rental market, and people just couldn't get homes and all this. It was appalling because the landlords wanted immediately really tightened credit checks, things like that, and so this was abandoned after a year. And then about 3 years following that, a new government came in and said, well, actually, we failed once, but we'll do it right this time. We'll try again, but we'll do it differently. We'll make sure it works this time. And they put it in, and it lasted 8 months. And then they abandoned it because it just didn't work. Nobody could rent. There was nothing. The market died. And so they've never tried it again. But not to be outdone, the SNP and the Greens, eh? They look to where it fails and they say, we'll make it work this time. And no, they don't. Anyway, a vicious circle of low supply, which I've mentioned, leading to higher rents for new tenancies and less movement within the sector, seems to have been set in motion as the rent gap between open and closed markets grows. Add in anecdotal evidence of landlords leaving and pressures on would-be property buyers, it is clear we have a difficult path ahead in achieving a balance. There will be no balance while the SNP maintain rent controls, and it's as simple as that. And also, while they keep coming after and making life harder and harder for landlords. The more you do that, the fewer landlords there are, which means fewer properties, which means they're like gold dust and they can charge what they like for them. Adrian Sangster of Aberdeen Considine highlighted that demand for good quality accommodation did remain at record high levels, with Scots forced to move to more towns and rural areas due to the competition in the big cities. He added, the media have recently been referring to a ticking time bomb in the mortgage market. Everywhere. They just can't afford it. It's just gone boom, boom, boom. The average property to rent in Scotland surpassed the £1,000 mark for the first time in Q1. And now that is high for Scotland. That is very high. Now, I worked in the construction industry in total in the construction industry for 30 odd years, but with one company for about 23 years, and we did house building, and we would build 4 companies that wanted to rent, and we also did retain, on virtually every site, we always retained a few houses that we rented out, so we were always aware of the rental market. And I remember the time when England, it wasn't that long ago, 2017 I think, that our average rent across our portfolio was £1,000 a month, and that was then. And I'd imagine now it wouldn't be any less than maybe £1,600. But at the time, because we used to look at the variable, and if you were in South Wales, you were getting it for nothing. Durham, dirt cheap. I mean, some places were renting in Durham for like £70-80 a week. And even now, I think you can probably rent a house in Durham for about £500 or £600 a month, you know. So for Scotland to go over £1,000 is actually significant, you know, as an average. I mean, obviously Edinburgh and things, yeah, you're going to, but as Scotland as a whole, for an average, that is horrific. Anyway, there was another little tangent. I do them. New viewers, I often go off on tangents. Regular viewers, hey, you know. Anyway, Gillian Semner, the PR manager at CityLets, added, the latest CityLets report makes for stark reading, and that should be acknowledged at the highest level. Good intentions for one market segment, though. The new legislation appears to be having severe ramifications on the open market. The outlook for the next quarter and beyond is likely more of the same. Low supply and high demand. Therefore, you know, prices are only going in one direction, and it won't be long before it's £1,100 average, £1,200, £1,500. I suspect that some of the cities now will be hitting £1,400-1,500 average rent. Scottish Conservative Shadow Housing Secretary Mike Myers-Briggs pointed to the deeply damaging rent freeze policy, which it is always damages, because you can't have an agreement then, and also the lack of eviction is terrible, because it just gives tenants that there's no fear, they can do whatever they like, they don't have to pay rent, you know, and it screws everything. With rents continuing to increase at an alarming rate, and what can you do about it? It is further proof that Patrick Harvie's rent freeze policy has been an utter fiasco. Industry experts warned that this would happen, but the Green Minister didn't listen, because he never does, he knows best. Backed up by the SNP and Labour MSPs, ploughed ahead regardless. This policy has been deeply damaging for the private rental market, with many developments put on hold or abandoned. People are being made unemployed because people can't afford the rent because the rent prices are so high. And if they can't afford the rent, they can't rent them out. And so the developers are going, well, hang on a minute, stop that. We can't rent this out at this price. So they're not building, and then people are getting laid off. This is what's happening. He said, Patrick Harvie needs to recognise that this policy has been counterproductive and is in fact hammering people with huge rent increases during a cost of living crisis. Scottish Government spokeswoman said, our emergency legislation has led the way within the UK at a time when rents have been rising across the UK. And still are. And here's the thing, you stupid woman. They might not be raising for an individual tenant who's there, but let's say, oh look, wife has had a child, they need to move out, they now need a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom, they need to go and find somewhere new. Their new place, their rent, is probably half as much again as their old rent. And the price the landlord's going to get for renting out the property has just been made vacant, probably gone up £300, £400 a month, so the new guy coming in is going to be slaughtered with it. That's what happens when you let stupid people make stupid decisions. Since 1st of April 2023, private landlords have been able to increase a tenant's rent in tenancy by up to 3%, or can to apply to the Rent Service Scotland for approval to increase it up to 6% in specific circumstances, and you can bet your bottom dollar every single one of them has. And that's what happens. Morons. We tell them that they're morons. We tell them, don't do it. It fails. It's a terrible idea. And the wee leprechaun of Leven says, to be sure, they're after me lucky charms, and fuck 'em all. What did R say? Anyway, I'm going to round up and come up. So there we are. One man. It's always him. It's always Patrick Harvie, the man who, when he's even told by experts that something won't work, it's a bad idea, it's a terrible idea, it will undoubtedly fail, he still does it because he thinks he knows more than the experts. Well, actually, he knows nothing, does he? He knows absolutely nothing. That's why he keeps failing. Why does he not realise this is why he fails? He's a moron. Anyway, I shall stop there. Thank you very much for watching and for watching today. Like I say, unless there's a big breaking news, that's my last video of the evening. I have worked very hard on a lot of videos today. So I hope you enjoyed that one. If you did enjoy it, please like it. Please also hit that subscribe button. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, and, like me, go and enjoy the evening. If evening it is where you are when you're watching this. It's going to be evening for me. I can hear the sound of a tinny opening. Bye.